I just want to finish this off by I think we're kind of operating out here, and I want to just zoom in. I want to talk about music really quickly, which I know is something close to both of your hearts, and then see whether we can generalize that to the classroom. So, when you were talking, I was thinking about when I used to play in bands. You can tell with a band, perhaps, I don't know whether this is the right wording or not, but like if the VAR is broken in the band, the bass player can't connect with the drummer, and the singer's off, and everything's kind of jarring. And you can play a set, but people will tell you it sounds like crap because people aren't gelling together. And then the flip side to that is that I think perhaps what you're describing, when that connection and that relationship or that VAR is when everyone's in harmony, the bass player and the drummer are kind of working together, and the guitarist is doing his thing, but all the layers are kind of building together to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. So that's kind of how I contextualize that for myself. So you can tell me whether I'm off on that or whether it's right. But what I want to do is then make the link from something like that, because it might not be music, it might be a sports team or some other thing that you can think about where you have those relationships. But let's zoom in on the classroom situation. And I think sometimes you can tell when something like Levar is not present. It's really obvious in your classroom because people aren't getting along, people are disengaged, people have checked out mentally, or they're physically left, and things like that. So sometimes you can identify that something is missing easier than you can identify that something is there, because it might be there and you might not be noticing it, but you certainly notice it as a teacher when it's not there. What I'm looking for is, if it's broken in my classroom, how can I identify it and what can I do to fix it?
I'm going to relate this back to music, really, because that's it's an area that I can relate to. Is as a unit in music, we rely on each other by playing together in harmony, not playing together separately. And so what you'll notice sometimes with people who don't communicate is they may be playing together separately, not playing together. We're playing together separately, but not together. So it's not cohesive. And so it's recognizing that sometimes we have to listen to each other very carefully, and it's the things that are not said sometimes, and it's just learning about that relationship and the boundaries between what we're working on. So that's how I see it within that context.
Yes, it's fantastic. As we're talking about music, when you've got a band together and they're just jamming, it's amazing. If the VAR is not whole, then everybody needs a chord chart because they're not listening. In relation to the classroom, Graham, it's a good thing to be able to transfer the VAR thing, because specific people are spiritual people. And if I am attending a classroom and I've got, something against my brother or sister outside of that, it's very hard for me to concentrate in that classroom. And no matter what the teacher's teaching, if the VAR for me outside of the classroom hasn't been fixed, then I'll be distracted in there. We also know that the reason why the VAR is set up is for the value of trust. And if trust isn't in the band, the music will sound differently. Just as if trust isn't in the classroom, the learning will be distracted. And so one of the things that educators have to work with in the VAR is, again, if you have that initial Dalanoa first with every student, not just Pacific, but get a sense of what's happening, what's first to mind, and unpack that first. You might find that some Pacific people say, oh, look, I'm not quite here, but I'll give it a go. You'll get a bit of honesty. And that's a good place to start, because then they trust you with your teaching. And they'll listen for 60% of the teaching, but they'll follow you up later for the other 40%. Where there's no trust, they don't follow you for 100% of the time. So I think there's those gradual things that you do, a scaffolding to make sure that, we understand the student, if you like, or the learner, by understanding the VAR, how that VAR has been broken, and then how do we tell the VAR or bring back some healing. Often, Graham, food and cups of tea are amazing places to begin. We don't do it enough. That whole thing of just cold starts everything. We don't do enough cups of tea. But when you've got cups of tea and the educators walking around saying hello to everybody with a cup of tea and just warming up the room, the VAR is often exposed during that time. I've been in a classroom before where a woman has burst into tears because to get to the classroom, she had to do like 6 things: get her kids to school, get her husband off, get the lunches done, catch a bus, late, raining. She's arrived there, she's exhausted, and all you want to do is teach her about Pythagoras. She's not interested in than that. And so if you take your time at that cup of tea to unpack that, and she burst into tears. And we basically just all surrounded her and we got onto it. So I think those kind of things that we miss out help build the bar or help till that bar and bring people back into a learning realm again.
Hey, thanks a lot once again. Really appreciate that. And we'll be back next week with another short video. Thanks, guys.